respects, we're making moderate progress.
Question number 2, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, is he confident that the government's economic and fiscal strategy is on track? If so, why?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the government's economic and fiscal strategy reflects the circumstances which we found when we came into government in 2008 and the very difficult global situation since then, as well as the effect of major earthquakes in Canterbury. Despite all those circumstances have been difficult, despite that, New Zealand has now grown in 9 of the last 10 quarters, and that is a tribute to the businesses and households who have adapted with so much resilience to such difficult circumstances. We will continue to support them with our plan for greater productivity and competitiveness, as well as a return to
Point of order,
surplus.
the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Speaker, some time ago in this answer I thought someone would have been stopped because I asked him, was it on track? Not about a long diatribe about the just a simple question.
Could I assist the Right Honourable Gentleman? There have been a series of questions to the Minister of Finance that have been quite particular questions, and in response we've really had reiteration of the government's policy. Now, question time, ministers should answer questions. This question, I take it the minister is actually telling the House he believes that the economic and fiscal strategy is on track, but he hasn't actually told the House that. The question asked, is he confident that it is on track, and if so, why is he confident it is on track? That was a question asked. I think the member asking the question has right to be aggrieved by the answer. The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, he stood up before I'd completed the answer.
Well, there'd been an awful lot of. There'd been an awful lot of. There'd been an awful lot. Order. No order. Order. No order. Order. There'd been an awful lot of answer given before I heard an answer, and that's why I believe the member had every right to be aggrieved. And I invite the Honourable Bill English now to answer the question.
Mr Speaker, despite the significant challenges that New Zealand has faced, the economy has grown 9 of the last 10 quarters, and in that sense the economic and fiscal strategy is on track. But the reason it's on track is because New Zealanders have been so resilient in adapting to these difficult circumstances, and we'll continue to support them, and that will help us stay on track.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
A supplementary question. How can he be at all confident that the government is on track to, quote, to them, responsibly manage the government's finances, end of quotes, given the Reserve Bank now forecasts that government debt will be $10 billion higher in 2014 than the figures he gave the House on budget day in this document?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think as I said in answer to an earlier question, there's a range of forecasts now that reflect the uncertainty that I think not just forecasters feel, but many New Zealand businesses and households feel. The Reserve Bank happens to have moved from a view that the economy was much better than Treasury thought to a view 3 months later that says it's much worse than Treasury thought. Well, you know, that's one opinion. However, we stay focused on our plan to lift competitiveness and our growth prospects and support New Zealanders who, whatever that uncertainty, are continuing to make sensible decisions that keep the economy on track.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
When will he stop hiding behind the European situation and take responsibility for his own policy failures at home, such as, for example, his inability to balance the books by 2014-15, which was the government's stated objective of the May budget, this document, just 4 weeks ago?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as my colleagues have pointed out, we take responsibility for all the decisions we make and what they cost, and we welcome the opposition starting to take responsibility for all the stuff they are promising, which we know they won't be able to pay for.
Mr Speaker, was that an answer?
I take it as a point of order.
Well, actually, so I was hoping you'd volunteer it yourself.
Well, order. Order.
Order. I would have been very tempted to assist the member, but he started out his question, why is the government hiding behind the European situation? And he wants the Speaker to assist. He doesn't ask questions like that because it leaves a lot of latitude to the Minister. And otherwise I would have assisted. But I think given the wording of the question, there's not a lot the Speaker can do. The Right Honourable Winston.
Thank you, Speaker. How can New Zealanders be confident that he is managing anything other than economic decline when, according to the Reserve Bank, unemployment rate remains, to quote them, near its recessionary peak, end of quotes, and New Zealand's capacity for GDP growth has halved, I say, under his management?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the first place, I just disagree with the Reserve Bank's view on the final point. But I think the reason New Zealanders are confident is because they have a quite realistic grasp of the economic uncertainty that we all face. But in the face of that uncertainty, they have done very well to adapt to it. So our businesses and households have been remarkably resilient, and actually that's the main reason the government has confidence that we can stay on track, because New Zealanders understand what needs to be done and they're getting on and doing it.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
How can the New Zealand public believe the Prime Minister's statements on the economy when a yawning credibility gap has opened up between the Treasury and the Reserve Bank's view of the economic prospects for New Zealand?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, there are a couple of agencies who make independent forecasts, and they clearly have some differences of opinion. I mean, in the end, they are just spectators trying to predict how the game is going to play out. What really matters is New Zealand households and businesses who are increasing their savings, who are making investments carefully, who are reducing their debt and are creating new jobs and paying wage increases month by month. So we are on a track to moderate growth, and we believe we can stay on that track.
Question number 3, the Leader of the Opposition, David.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all his statements?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.